So, as a Muslim dentist or a busy high-income professional, you probably have quite a bit of money saved up in a bank account somewhere, just lying around, losing value. And you're probably thinking, okay, how do I invest this? And how do I invest it in a way that's halal, that abides by my ethical and religious principles? I completely understand. I've been in the exact same position as you. It's a horrible feeling having money just lying around. And you know, because of horrible Western government monetary policies, they are putting into place certain policies, certain decisions that is causing your money, your savings to hemorrhage in value, to just deteriorate. All of that money that you've worked so hard to make is sinking through your fingers like trying to hold water in cupped hands. But at this point, which you probably already know, which is why you're here, the truth is, if your money's not working for you, then you are working for your money, which is a really bad position to be in, at least over the long term. And especially as you get older, as you lose energy, as you get tireder, as your joints start to ache, as your back starts to hurt more, you want to be in a position where you are more financially secure, where you don't need to rely on your 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever, your daily grind in order to make money to survive. You need to have a financial safety net. And that financial safety net needs to be halal. It needs to be ethical so that the money that you take from it brings in more barakah, more blessings, rather than negativity, rather than bad things. So today I'm going to break down 5 halal investing ideas that you can potentially consider. So stick around, especially to number 5, because this could completely change your financial future, bi'idhnillah. So imagine this scenario. You are a 55-year-old dentist. You've been working for the best part of 30 years and you've been an amazing clinician. You've had minimal complaints. You've made a lot of money from your career and you've treated yourself. You've developed a really comfortable lifestyle, which means you're making good money, but you're also spending almost all of that income every single month. Now, at 55 years old, you're starting to notice you're getting a little bit slower. You're getting a little bit more tired, your back is starting to ache, your fingers are starting to get a little bit of arthritis, and you're starting to feel a little bit of fear. What is the future going to look like? I've not really prepared anything, and if I want to take advantage of this amazing NHS pension, I need to wait at least another 10 to 12 years, if by that point the government hasn't raised retirement age to 70, 75 years old. So imagine putting yourself in that position. You don't really have a financial safety net. Yes, you've lived a comfortable life, but in order to fund that lifestyle, you've had to work 40 to 60 hours a week consistently over the last 30 years. Now, on the other hand, you could be like all of our clients, which are young, hard-working, motivated associates who are not doing anything differently to you from the dentistry side of things, except that all of this amazing income that they are making, they have a very clear financial plan. They are spending on their necessary expenses, their rent, their bills, their family. They are treating themselves. They are going on holidays regularly, going out to eat and enjoying themselves in restaurants, etc., within reason. And everything on top of their income that they have not spent on their expenses, they are investing it. Imagine what position you would be in. These clients, these young, amazing, motivated associates who are starting to invest in their late 20s or their early 30s are legitimately going to achieve the ability to be work optional by the time they're 40, 45 years old. And by that point, they're going to have the choice. If I love dentistry and I want to continue doing dentistry, they can continue dentistry. On the other hand, if they want to work less, work part-time, they'll have that freedom. Because they have their investment portfolio that's continually growing in the background, and maybe their part-time income covers all of their monthly expenses and pocket money on top of that. And hopefully by that point, they've found some other hobbies. So understand, you need to start investing as soon as physically possible. And as I mentioned, what you invest into needs to be ethical, it needs to be halal. So let's start simple. Number 1, gold and silver. Why should you invest into gold, silver, precious metals? Because it's physical, it's tangible, it's halal categorically across the board, and it's proven historically over the last thousands of years to hold its value. Whereas on one hand, the government are printing millions and millions of pounds so that the value of your savings, the value of your money is actually going to go down. The value of gold is at least going to maintain its value. Now, personally, me here in Dubai, it's super easy to buy and sell gold. And you don't have the same security concerns that you have in the West. People in Dubai, they can buy gold and they can store it in their homes. Obviously, best case scenario, in a good, high quality safe. But unlike the West, they don't have the fear of their home being burgled and ransacked and all of the valuables in their home being taken away unfairly and them not having any right or allowance to defend themselves and protect their assets. So, on one hand, gold is a phenomenal asset, but it's very, very important, especially if you hold physical gold, that you have a very clear security plan of how you're going to store your precious metals. If you're going to store it at home, make sure it's stored in a safe. Don't tell anyone about it. Don't tell anyone where it is. Don't tell anyone how you're storing it. Or you can store it in a security deposit box, potentially store it in a bank vault. And there's also websites that will help you buy gold. You'll set up direct debit. They will take your direct debit every single month. They will buy gold with it. They will store the gold for you. And every single month, your gold will grow like that. So there's a lot of ways that you can buy physical gold, precious metals, in a way that's very, very easy. But as always, make sure that you are storing it securely, storing it safely. Don't make it easy for anyone to take hold of your assets, especially if you live in a first world country like the West, which has rocketing rates of crime and thievery. Number 2 is property, specifically in a really good location. It can be a country that is up and coming, that is growing, where it has a growing economy, emerging markets, where tourism is continually growing and expanding. These are locations that are phenomenal areas to potentially buy a property through a halal mortgage that you can use as a holiday home, or you can rent it out long-term or short-term. And especially in a country like the UAE, there's a huge number of options to acquire homes completely riba-free, very, very affordable. You can find studio apartments here in Dubai in a really up-and-coming area that will have massive capital appreciation for as little as £100,000. And that's just Dubai. If you look at some of the other Emirates, there's a huge amount of potential and growth happening in Sharjah, in Ajman. And within our agency, we have a phenomenal member of our team who could potentially help you, who has already helped some of our clients acquire their first property in the UAE, and he could potentially help you too. So if you're interested in someone who has a huge amount of experience with property in the UAE, who can help you get a property very affordably, completely riba-free, pop us a message. Now, just as an example, there are some properties that clients have bought for around £150,000, and within the space of 3 to 5 years, they've been able to sell the property for double that. That is how massively the property market in Dubai is growing. Now, as always, it's not a free-for-all. You still need to make sure that you're not buying in a saturated area. You need to make sure that you understand the market. And you need to make sure that you understand the structure of the deal. Even though it is interest-free, you still need to be able to afford the installments over the long term. So why is property good? It's tangible, it's brick and mortar, it's halal as long as you invest completely riba-free from our interest-free mortgage that we can give you access to. The UAE/Dubai property market is massively booming, and you don't actually need as much capital as you think you need. A lot of these deals are structured in a way where you can put down a deposit of 20%, say, and then you just pay 1% a month installments for the rest of the property. The other very, very important thing to be careful of is a lot of these developers will give you interest-free mortgages, but they might still have late fees on the contract. We do our best to ensure that all of our clients do not get involved in any late fees within their contracts, and there are ways that you can take out the late fees from a lot of these contracts. We have the contacts to help you if that's something that's important to you. Now, investment number 3, stocks. Let's talk the stock market. Now, the stock market is a plethora of options. Conceptually, stocks are halal. All you're doing is you're buying a small part of a company on the stock market. But the part where you have to be very, very careful of, especially as a halal or ethical investor, is that you need to make sure that the companies that you invest into do not take a significant percentage of their income from interest. They don't hold a huge amount of debt. And the main industry that company deals with obviously has to be halal. So major industries like alcohol, gambling, adult entertainment, military applications, etc., and banking also, these are generally impermissible industries. So just avoid those industries. And then, as I mentioned, you need to be able to assess the balance sheet of these companies to ensure they don't take a significant percentage of their income from haram sources, from interest, and they don't hold above a certain percentage of debt. And the other thing you have to be careful of is at one point in the life cycle of this company, it might be halal, but then maybe a year later, they start taking on a huge amount of debt. So you have to be very, very careful, and you have to be continually assessing the companies that you are investing into to ensure that they are halal. So if I was to rank stocks on the scale of ease of halal permissibility, I would put stocks a little bit lower because they are a little bit more difficult to assess for Sharia compliance, and because they're dynamic, they're constantly changing. Financially, it is a bit more difficult to ensure long-term that that company stays halal. But thankfully, there are apps like Zoya app and websites that do the full Sharia compliance checks for you. So there's no excuse. And if you feel like stocks are too difficult to invest into from a Sharia compliance perspective or from an ethical perspective, you don't need to invest into stocks. This is why we have the benefit of having a huge range of different options available to us as investors. Now, investment number 4 is business. Starting your own business is a legitimate investment. It is an incredibly high risk investment, and it's entirely dependent on how hard you work to build that business, but a really good business that you show proof of concept and you scale consistently over the long term can give you a ridiculous return on investment. Now, you have options. You can start your own business, you can partner up with someone else who already has a business, but consistently the biggest return on investments that I have ever seen have been from people starting their own businesses and scaling them consistently over the long term. If you want a full breakdown of how to invest into businesses, pop a comment below. Now, as an example, a number of our own clients in our inner circle have started their own businesses. A significant number of them have been associates who started their own practice. There's many pros and cons to owning your own practice. I've talked about this at length previously, but if you also want a longer video of me talking about the pros and cons of owning a practice, just let me know. But I don't need to tell you, owning a practice that you scale to maybe 4 or 5 chairs, you can continually work in one chair and slowly phase out your own clinical work, but you're also going to be taking home a percentage of the income of the associates that are working for you in your chairs, in your practice. Now, obviously, the overheads of running a successful practice are very high, but it is very possible to hit consistent high 5 figures in revenue. And actually, one of our first ever clients has started his own dental marketing agency. He started from scratch. He did a huge amount of studying on marketing techniques, on online marketing, in-person marketing, etc. And he's been dropping some major gems in our private community, in our inner circle, about some of the lessons that he's learned building his marketing agency. So businesses are an amazing investment, but just remember they're going to be a huge amount of time involvement from you. It's going to take a long time to grow. It's not going to happen overnight. And for a lot of business owners, especially who start from scratch, especially who start from squat practices, etc., you're going to be making a loss or barely breaking even for maybe the first 3 to 5 years before you start making consistent profits. Owning a business is not for everyone. And halal investment number 5 is investing in yourself. Investing in yourself might just be the best thing that you ever do and the best investment that you ever make. Think about it. How much did your degree as a dentist cost? For some of us who graduated 10 plus years ago, it cost potentially £100,000 to £150,000. For some of the more recent graduates, it potentially cost around £200,000 to £300,000 or more. And think about what the return on investment is for that amount of money. As a dentist, yes, we're very, very lucky. Dentists are very highly needed in today's market. So when you graduate, you're essentially guaranteed a job. but it is going to take you at least 5 to 10 years to make back the same amount of money as profit that it cost you to become a dentist, your student loans, your cost of living, your residency costs. Whereas if you took that same amount of money, you took a fraction of it, you invested in a mentor, you joined a business or a sales program, you learned some high income skills, you learn how to effectively manage and invest your money, I can essentially guarantee you it's going to pay you back many, many times over. So listen, take a percentage of your income, invest it into yourself, obviously on the things like self-care, investing into the gym, investing into a chiropractor, deep tissue massages. These are the things that are going to elongate your career, but also on the things like investing. Learn how to invest into clinical courses, invest into implant courses, etc. I would generally say pick a speciality of dentistry that you know that you enjoy. The worst thing that you can do is spend £12,000-15,000 on an MSc only to find that you hate endo or the speciality of the MSc that you've chosen. So make sure that you are passionate about the speciality that you're going to focus on. Focus on that speciality. Do extra courses, clinical courses, MScs, etc. and learn how to invest so that increased income that you make from that speciality, you are able to grow it while you're sleeping. And as you know, that's exactly what we help our clients with within our financial mastery agency, within our inner circle community. In our inner circle community, we have average associates, we have high income associates, some who are taking home up to £30,000 a month. We have practice managers, net worth of upwards of 7 figures. And we have specialists. We have everyone across the board, all who are coming together with similar goals in life to grow their amazing income to help them get to that point within the next 10 to 15 years where they are work optional, where they can do dentistry if they love doing dentistry. They can work part-time if they still want to continue maintaining their skills, or they can drop it completely. But the point is, you're going to have that option if you start investing now, rather than waiting 30 or 40 years before the government give you permission to retire on a measly NHS pension. So guys, that was 5 different ways that you can invest in a halal way to grow your wealth as a Muslim or someone who cares about ethical investing. That was gold, property, stocks, investing in business, investing in yourself. If you have any questions whatsoever about halal investing, just drop a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, please, I would really appreciate it if you like, share and subscribe, because that is the best way to support what I do completely for free, and it allows me to get out much more high quality content for you guys. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.